One version of Titanic we have never seen until this morning.
That's right, experts have used special technology to map the entire ship on the ocean floor and create its digital twin.
The sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912 remains one of the most harrowing maritime tragedies in history. While much has been discovered and documented about the ship's ill-fated maiden voyage, numerous mysteries still surround the events, circumstances, and tales associated with the Titanic. Delving into these enigmas, we explore 15 puzzling aspects of the Titanic saga that continue to intrigue and baffle researchers, historians, and enthusiasts alike. Number 1. The luck of the SS Californian. On the fateful night when the Titanic met its doom, another ship, the SS Californian, was closer to the disaster site than any other vessel. The Californian's proximity to the sinking giant has been a topic of intrigue and controversy since that tragic night. How could a ship, stationed at a mere few miles away from the Titanic, fail to come to its aid promptly? The Californian had stopped for the night due to the treacherous ice fields ahead. Its radio operator, Cyril Evans, had sent a warning to the Titanic about the ice only to be curtly told to keep quiet because the Titanic's operator was busy. Later, when the disaster struck, the Californian's radio was turned off for the night, leaving them unaware of the Titanic's distress signals. But the radio silence was not the only mysterious element in this tale. Crew members aboard the Californian claimed to have seen rockets being fired into the night sky. These rockets, which were distress signals from the sinking Titanic, should have prompted immediate action. However, instead of instantly recognizing them as distress signals and racing to the aid of the Titanic, the Californian's crew debated what they were seeing. Were they just shooting stars, celebration fireworks from another ship, or indeed a genuine cry for help? In the end, while many aspects of that night have been pieced together, the exact sequence of events, decisions made on the Californian, and the reasons behind its inaction remain subjects of debate and wonder. The luck of the SS Californian, in being so close yet so distant in the hour of need, is an enigma that continues to resonate in the annals of maritime history. Number 2. The real reason behind the shortage of lifeboats. The most glaring and tragic oversight on the Titanic was the inadequate number of lifeboats. For a ship carrying over 2,200 passengers and crew, the Titanic was equipped with lifeboats that could accommodate merely 1,178 people. This grim arithmetic has long been a focal point of the ship's legacy. But why was there such a stark shortage? To begin with, the Titanic was designed during a time when maritime regulations had not caught up with the rapid advances in shipbuilding technology. The Board of Trade's rules at the time required British vessels over 10,000 tons to carry only 16 lifeboats. Titanic, boasting a tonnage of 46,000, carried 20 lifeboats, technically surpassing the requirement. Yet, it was nowhere near enough for the ship's actual capacity. The inadequacy was not merely a matter of oversight. Aesthetic and commercial considerations also played a role. Some reports suggest that White Star Line's management, including J. Bruce Ismay, believed more lifeboats would clutter the deck and detract from the ship's luxurious appeal. Furthermore, with the ship being touted as unsinkable, there was a misplaced sense of security that a massive array of lifeboats was unnecessary. There were also technological innovations at play. The Titanic had an advanced watertight compartment design, believed to make her practically unsinkable. This bolstered the belief in her invincibility and may have contributed to the complacency regarding lifeboat provisions. In the aftermath of the disaster, the shortage of lifeboats became a glaring emblem of negligence and complacency. The tragedy catalyzed significant changes in maritime safety regulations, including requirements for lifeboat capacity. Today, the lifeboat shortage serves as a poignant reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and the dire consequences of underpreparation. Number 3. The unsinkable Molly Brown's Premonition. Margaret Brown, popularly known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, is one of the most celebrated figures to have emerged from the Titanic disaster. Known for her indomitable spirit and bravery during the ship's sinking, Molly Brown's legacy is entwined with tales of heroism. Yet, lesser known is the account of her uncanny premonition prior to boarding the Titanic. Molly Brown, a wealthy American socialite and philanthropist, never intended to be on the Titanic. She was traveling through Europe when she received news that her grandson was ill. In a rush to return to America, she booked passage on the first available ship, which happened to be the Titanic. Before her hasty departure, Molly had a disturbing dream. In her vision, she was on a grand ship that encountered a terrible accident. The dream was so vivid and unsettling that she relayed it to friends in a letter. She described the chaos, the cold water, and a sense of impending doom. Little did she realize how prophetic this dream would turn out to be. Molly Brown's premonition adds another layer of mystique to her already fascinating story. While her acts of bravery are well documented, this eerie foresight is a testament to the myriad unexplained phenomena that surround the Titanic's tragic tale. It serves as a haunting reminder of the thin line between intuition and reality, and the mysteries that often lie in the realm of the inexplicable. Number 4. The ship's mummy curse legend. Among the many tales that surround the Titanic, the legend of the ship's cursed mummy stands out as one of the most fantastical. Stories of ancient curses are not uncommon, with tales of explorers facing the wrath of disturbed pharaohs having captured public imagination for decades. However, the tale of a mummy's curse bringing down the Titanic elevates the lore to an even more dramatic plane. The story begins with the alleged transport of an Egyptian mummy aboard the Titanic. This wasn't just any mummy, it was believed to be the remains of Princess Amun-Ra. Legend held that this mummy carried with it a powerful curse, bringing misfortune and disaster to anyone who came into its possession. From the museum that first housed it in England, where mysterious deaths and misfortunes plagued the staff, to its alleged subsequent owners who faced untimely demises or tragedies, the mummy's curse seemed relentless. Still, the legend of the cursed mummy offers a glimpse into the human psyche and our need for explanations, especially when faced with incomprehensible tragedies. It showcases our tendency to resort to supernatural reasoning in an attempt to make sense of events that defy understanding. While the Titanic's sinking can be attributed to a series of unfortunate events and human errors, the allure of legends like that of the mummy's curse ensures that the ship's story remains enshrouded in layers of myth and mystery. Number 5. The mysterious fire in coal bunker number 6. The RMS Titanic was an engineering marvel, but hidden beneath its gleaming decks and opulent interiors was a peril that many believe played a role in its sinking, a fire that smoldered in coal. Bunker number 6. The fire, which began even before the Titanic embarked on its maiden voyage, is a lesser-known but critical piece of the ship's tragic narrative. This was not an uncommon occurrence on ships of the day, and many of the crew would have been well-versed in managing such fires. The primary method of dealing with a coal fire was to shovel the burning coal into the ship's furnaces, effectively using the combustion to the ship's advantage. However, the intensity and stubbornness of this particular fire meant that it was still burning days into the voyage. Official inquiries into the Titanic's sinking gave the fire scant attention, focusing instead on the iceberg and other factors. But the coal bunker fire remains an intriguing and unsettling element of the story. Could a hidden blaze within the ship have sealed its fate? While it's impossible to determine the exact impact of the fire on the subsequent events, the very existence of the blaze adds another layer to the multifaceted tragedy of the Titanic, underscoring the myriad forces at play on that fateful journey. Number 6. The disappearance of first-class passenger William T. Stead. Among the illustrious passengers of the Titanic, William T. Stead, a prominent British journalist and editor, held a special place. Stead wasn't merely a journalist, he was a pioneer in investigative journalism and a champion of social reform. Yet, his presence on the Titanic and his subsequent disappearance have been sources of intrigue, not just because of his stature, but due to the eerie premonitions he had penned years before the tragedy. William T. Stead had written tales that bore uncanny resemblances to the Titanic disaster. In 1886, he penned How the Mail Steamer Went Down in Mid-Atlantic by a Survivor, a fictional account of a ship that sinks after colliding with another vessel due to a lack of lifeboats. The story eerily foretold the Titanic's fate, emphasizing the dire consequences of inadequate lifeboat provisions. Even more hauntingly, in 1892, Stead wrote another story, From the Old World to the New, where a vessel, the Majestic, rescues survivors from another ship that had struck an iceberg. The Majestic's captain in the story was named Edward J. Smith, the same name as the Titanic's captain. On the night of the Titanic's sinking, Stead, true to his character, remained calm and helped women and children into lifeboats. Witnesses recalled seeing him in the first-class smoking room, reading a book. Others claim he was last seen on the deck, clutching a lifebelt, looking pensively at the stars. His body was never recovered. In the annals of Titanic's many mysteries and stories, William T. Stead's prophetic writings and his subsequent disappearance on the very ship he seemed to foretell stand out as one of the most poignant and unsettling chapters. Number 7. The Enigma of the Californian's Delayed Rescue Effort. The role of the SS Californian on the night the Titanic sank remains one of the most debated and perplexing aspects of the disaster. As previously mentioned, the Californian was closer to the Titanic than any other ship when the iceberg collision occurred. Yet, the series of events that transpired and the Californian's apparent delayed response have left historians and enthusiasts with lingering questions. The Californian, captained by Stanley Lord, had halted its voyage due to the dense ice field. In the hours leading up to the Titanic's distress signals, the Californian's radio operator had warned the Titanic about the icy conditions. But as night deepened, the Californian's wireless was turned off, effectively severing the primary means of communication. However, the mystery deepens beyond the mere silence of the radio. Throughout the night, crew members aboard the Californian reported seeing rockets, distinct signals of distress at sea. The sight of these rockets should have prompted an immediate rescue effort. Yet, for reasons that remain contentious, the Californian did not spring into action. Was it disbelief, a series of misunderstandings, or something else that prevented the Californian from rushing to the Titanic's aid? Captain Lord maintained that he was unaware of the gravity of the situation and believed the rockets might have been signaling something other than a distress call. He also cited the risks associated with navigating through the ice field in the dark. The enigma surrounding the Californian's actions, or lack thereof, has resulted in numerous theories, each attempting to dissect the ship's decisions that night. While some see it as a grave error in judgment or a failure of duty, others believe it was a series of tragic miscommunications. Whatever the underlying reasons, the Californian's delayed response remains a haunting and unresolved chapter in the Titanic's tragic tale. Number 8. The Identity of the Titanic Orphans. Among the heart-rending tales of loss and survival that emerged from the Titanic disaster, the story of the Titanic orphans is particularly poignant. Two young boys, aged 4 and 2, were found alone on the ship's collapsible B lifeboat when it was rescued by the RMS Carpathia. With no parents or guardians in sight, the identity of these children became an immediate mystery. The boys were initially cared for by a woman named Margaret Hayes, a first-class passenger who had also survived the sinking. She took them to her home in New York, where they were dubbed the Titanic Orphans by the press, their endearing photos capturing the hearts of many. Who were these children, and how did they end up alone on a lifeboat in the midst of such chaos? The mystery began to unravel when a woman named Marcelle Carretto saw their pictures in the newspaper and immediately recognized them. They were her sons, Michel and Edmond Navratil. Their father, Michel Navratil Sr., had abducted them from their mother in France, intending to start a new life in America. Under the guise of a widowed father, he booked passage on the Titanic under the pseudonym Louis M. Hoffman. Marcelle Corretto, upon learning of her son's whereabouts, immediately traveled to New York and was joyfully reunited with them. The story of the Titanic orphans is a testament to the myriad personal narratives and destinies that intersected on that fateful journey. Amidst the broader tragedy, their tale illuminates the enduring bonds of family and the unforeseen twists of fate. Number 9. The last tune of the Titanic's band. Music has a unique ability to capture emotions, and on the night the Titanic sank, the ship's band used this power to provide comfort, distraction, and perhaps a semblance of normalcy to the increasingly frantic passengers. As the situation grew more dire, the 8 members of the band continued to play, their melodies offering a haunting backdrop to the unfolding tragedy. However, the final tune they played remains a matter of debate and mystery. Eyewitness accounts from the survivors vary. Some recall the somber strains of the hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee," painting a poignant picture of resignation and faith in the face of impending doom. This particular song has become strongly associated with the Titanic's final moments in popular culture, immortalized in films and books as the band's swan song. The hymn's lyrics resonate with the sentiment of the moment, a plea for closeness to the divine as the end approached. However, other survivors offered different recollections. Some mentioned ragtime tunes or popular songs of the day, suggesting the band sought to uplift spirits and maintain a sense of calm rather than dwell on the somber reality. Yet others believed they heard the waltz Songe d'automne, a melancholic tune that would also fit the mood of the evening. The ambiguity surrounding the band's final tune exemplifies the challenges of piecing together a definitive account from fragmented and sometimes contradictory memories. While we may never know for certain the last notes that floated above the icy waters of the North Atlantic that night, the dedication of the Titanic's band stands as a moving testament to the human spirit's resilience and the profound impact of music in our darkest hours. Number 10. The switch theory. Was it really the Titanic that sank? One of the most sensational and debated theories surrounding the Titanic disaster is the switch theory. This conspiracy suggests that it was not the Titanic that sank on that fateful night in April 1912, but rather its sister ship, the RMS Olympic. The underlying implication is a massive insurance scam, orchestrated by the ship's owner, the White Star Line, following damage the Olympic sustained in a prior collision. The crux of this theory lies in the alleged financial troubles of the White Star Line. The Olympic, launched before the Titanic, had collided with the Royal Navy warship HMS Hawke in 1911. The damage, significant but not fatal, led to costly repairs and raised insurance concerns. The switch theory postulates that in a bid to recoup losses and cash in on insurance money, White Star Line intentionally swapped the identities of the two ships. The plan: to send the already damaged Olympic, disguised as the Titanic on its maiden voyage, doom it to an iceberg collision, and collect the substantial insurance payout. However, the switch theory has significant holes. For one, the sheer logistics of swapping two of the world's largest ships without any of the thousands of workers at Belfast's Harland and Wolff shipyard noticing is implausible. Moreover, both ships had unique design elements and bespoke fittings that would make a complete switch extremely complex and noticeable. Not to mention, insurance for the Titanic covered only a fraction of its total cost, making the scam financially nonsensical. Historians and maritime experts have largely debunked the switch theory. However, its persistence in popular culture showcases the enduring allure of conspiracy theories, especially when tied to a disaster as iconic and tragic as the sinking of the Titanic. Number 11. The fate of the ship's cat. Cats have long been considered good luck on ships, their presence believed to protect sailors from storms and ensure safe voyages. The Titanic, in keeping with this maritime tradition, had its own ship's cat. Often seen by crew members during the ship's preparations and trials in Belfast, this feline, along with her litter of kittens, was a part of the Titanic's brief life. However, the fate of this cat remains a mystery, that tugs at the heartstrings of many Titanic enthusiasts. Legend has it that just days before the Titanic's maiden voyage, the cat was observed transferring her kittens off the ship one by one. Some superstitious crew members took this as an ominous sign. Animals, they believed, had a sixth sense for impending danger. This interpretation further deepened when it was discovered that the cat and her kittens were no longer on board when the ship left Southampton. While it's unknown whether the cat's departure was a result of intuition or mere coincidence, her absence adds another layer to the countless what-ifs that surround the ship's sinking. The fate of the ship's cat remains one of the lesser-known but touching enigmas of the Titanic's history. A small tale within a vast tragedy that reflects our deep human affection for and connection with animals. Number 12. The mystery of the breakup, how the Titanic really split apart. When the RMS Titanic met its tragic end, eyewitnesses aboard lifeboats spoke of a dramatic breakup. They described the ship's stern rising into the air before it fractured and plunged into the icy depths. Yet, initial inquiries and popular portrayals of the disaster, prior to the 1985 discovery of the wreck, often depicted the Titanic sinking intact. The discovery of the wreck by Dr. Robert Ballard and his team unveiled the separated bow and stern sections, confirming that the ship had indeed broken in two. But how did this monumental breakup occur? Modern simulations suggest that as the bow went under, the forces acting on the Titanic's midsection, where it was not designed to bear such immense loads, led to its catastrophic fracture. This theory aligns with many survivors' accounts of a massive noise akin to the ship tearing apart. The detailed dynamics of the breakup, while now better understood, still captivate researchers and enthusiasts. The manner in which the Titanic met its end, splintering in the stillness of the night, serves as a stark reminder of the colossal forces at play and the fragility of human-made structures when faced with the might of nature. Number 13. The puzzling disappearance of the crow's nest binoculars. One of the more intriguing and often overlooked mysteries surrounding the Titanic's voyage is the puzzling disappearance of the binoculars from the ship's crow's nest. These crucial instruments, which could have potentially aided in spotting the iceberg sooner, were inexplicably missing on the night of the tragedy. Frederick Fleet, the lookout who first spotted the iceberg, testified during the inquiries that followed the sinking that the binoculars were locked away and the key was misplaced. Had they been accessible, it's possible that the iceberg might have been seen from a greater distance, offering the crew more time to react and potentially averting the catastrophe. The story goes that the binoculars were locked in a cupboard after the ship's second officer was replaced shortly before the voyage, and the key was never properly handed over to the new officer. It's a maddening detail, such a vital piece of equipment rendered useless over a simple oversight. This minor yet consequential mishap has been the subject of much debate. While it's impossible to determine definitively whether the presence of the binoculars would have changed the ship's fate, their absence serves as a stark example of how small oversights can have monumental repercussions. Number 14. The uncertain final resting place of Captain Edward Smith. Captain Edward John Smith, the seasoned mariner at the helm of the Titanic, is a figure etched deeply into the ship's narrative. A veteran of the seas, Captain Smith declared the Titanic to be his final voyage before retirement. A sentiment that took a tragically literal turn. As the ship met its end, there are various accounts of Captain Smith's actions. Some say he was last seen on the bridge, others recall seeing him in the ship's wheelhouse. There are even tales of the captain carrying a child to one of the lifeboats. Yet his exact final moments remain uncertain. What's undisputed, however, is Captain Smith's dedication to his crew and passengers. He was known to have released his crew from their duties with the words, "It's every man for himself." Smith's body, if recovered, was never identified. Over the years, several theories about his final resting place have emerged. Some believe he went down with his ship, staying aboard until the very end, while others think his body lies unidentified in a Canadian grave. The elusive fate of Captain Edward Smith adds to the myriad mysteries of the Titanic. His leadership, courage, and ultimate sacrifice are emblematic of the many untold stories that linger in the wake of the ship's tragic sinking. Number 15. The conflicting iceberg descriptions. The iceberg that sealed the Titanic's fate on that chilling April night in 1912 is as much a character in the ship's narrative as any human on board. Yet, for an object so crucial to the story, there is a surprising lack of consensus about its appearance. Various accounts from survivors, each recounting their impression of the iceberg, have painted a myriad of conflicting images, adding another layer of enigma to the Titanic's history. Immediately after the collision, only a fraction of the ship's passengers and crew would have caught a glimpse of the iceberg. The night was moonless, and the sea eerily calm, providing minimal reference points to judge the iceberg's size and shape. Some described it as a towering monolith, emphasizing its height, while others recollected a flatter, more sprawling mass of ice. A few testimonies even suggested the iceberg had a distinctive red streak, possibly from the ship's paint. Frederick Fleet, the lookout who first spotted the iceberg, described it as a blue haze. Yet another survivor likened its appearance to Dundee marmalade reflecting off the water. Such discrepancies might be attributed to the differing vantage points of the observers, the limited visibility of the night, and the emotional trauma of the event. The varied descriptions of the iceberg serve as a poignant reminder of the Titanic disaster's complexities. Each individual aboard the ship had a unique experience, colored by perspective, position, and emotion. Just as memories from survivors provide differing accounts of the ship's final moments, the iceberg, too, remains a shape-shifting specter, clear in its consequences but ever elusive in its true nature. It stands as a cold, indifferent monument to the tragic interplay of human ambition and nature's might, its true face perhaps forever hidden in the mists of history and memory.